Welcome back, everybody. Everybody but Paul. Today is Thursday, and this show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Go check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD, where you can learn how to back up your data to basically any cloud you want right from your desktop. They make it super simple, super easy, encrypted, and all that good stuff. Check them out. Paul, I have a good story for you. Two good stories, actually.
I hope it includes a story about why I can hear you today.
Oh, it does. It's a two-part story. It's a
Okay.
two-part story. So my morning started out by me taking my wife's car to get its oil changed and some other warranty work. And so I drop it off there. My plan was just to stay there. And then they said, hey, this might take a while. We'll give you a rental. I'm like, great, absolutely wonderful. And
hmm
so they hook me up with the rental. I leave and I'm driving home. And I realized I have
What is the
absolutely no
rental,
way.
if you don't mind me asking? What was the
It's a
car?
Ford F-150.
Interesting.
Yeah, 2018.
Interesting.
It's a nice truck. I mean, whatever.
Yep. Yep.
If you're a truck person, whatever. But it occurred to me halfway home, Paul, that I had absolutely no way of getting into my house.
Because you
Yep.
left the keys with the dealer. Yeah.
I left the keys with the dealer, and the garage opener is built into the car. And so I got to see my mother at about 8 a.m. this morning. It was great.
It's okay. Good.
Yeah.
Glad
As you
that worked
noticed, I
out.
am in my house. I still don't have my car back, but my mother came over and let me into my own house. That's it was great.
Yeah, that's smart. We that was one thing we were careful to do when we moved here was make sure that my sisters have keys to the house because
Yes.
we're idiots.
If they ever have let you in, or if they need to borrow one of your many PCs.
Yep.
Part two of the story, because we can't leave it on a cliffhanger. You'll notice I'm on this microphone. I'm sitting here. At about 1 p.m. yesterday, after a little bit more frustration with the start menu not working, I just formatted and flattened the computer and rebuilt it.
I see. Like just install Windows again, you mean?
Yeah, I put in, which
Yeah.
surprisingly, well, not unsurprisingly, it's a very simple
Oh,
process. It was a lot easier too, for two reasons. One, I have three drives in the machine. I have a platter drive that is just a replication of OneDrive online. I have a
mhm.
second drive that is all my applications. Then I have a boot drive, which is a high speed drive. And so I just flattened that drive. It only took about 25 minutes or so to get back up and running, reinstall a
Yep.
couple key apps, and hey, look at that, everything's working well.
You know, God, you just reminded me of something. It's interesting how often this has happened to me lately. Like I'll install Windows fresh. In fact, I did this. It might have been on that computer I sent you or one of those computers, but
Mhm.
you kind of bring it up and nothing is working right. Like the store apps all have that little arrow
Yep.
thing instead of the app, and they won't download from the app store, and you don't know why. And then you just kind of blow it away, and then it works fine. And whatever. And I know we're going to talk about this in a little while. I just don't want to forget this. With regards to the Windows 10s stuff, I actually forgot to put something into the article I wrote today, which was that I thought I was experiencing that very issue again. I had, after on the fourth try, finally gotten Windows 10s installed correctly,
Mhm.
upgraded to the latest Windows Insider Preview, got the Office apps installed successfully.
Mhm.
Everything was working great, except that Photoshop Elements would not load. It comes up with that little initial
Mm.
dialogue and then it
Yep.
disappears. And I was just about to pave it over, and I thought, wait a second. It used to do this. Remember this was a problem with Windows 10s when it first came out. It wouldn't run Photoshop Elements. So I went back and looked at the article I wrote last August, probably, and you're supposed to create this little directory structure on the disk. You haven't had to do this since, I don't know, September maybe. And I did it, and that's what fixed it. Like
Mm.
I was this close to blowing it away again because
Yep.
I can't use this computer without Photoshop. Like I can't.
Sure.
And it's amazing to me that this kind of thing is still a problem. But anyway, I almost did what you just did because you just kind of get attuned to this. It's like screw it. Like I
Mhm.
know if I just do this over again, it's probably going to work.
Yep. Yeah. And
Interesting.
why this microphone? I would like to
Oh,
point out
right.
I did not disconnect, reconnect, or
Mm-mm.
anything. It was all plugged in. I just flattened it, um, started Scratch, and booting into Windows, it worked right away.
Oh, speaking of which, yesterday we recorded a podcast. You had all kinds of problems and you had to use your other computer. I had no problems at
Mhm.
all. As you may recall, my microphone works fine. My video works fine, whatever it was. And a couple hours went by, Windows Weekly started, and Leo said, "How come I can't see your video?" I not only had nothing changed, I've been just using the computer like nothing. And so I unplugged the web camera, put it in a different USB port, and it came up just fine. Just fine. Yeah. Windows is
There you
awesome.
go. There you go. And I haven't actually read your Windows 10s post. You talked about it a little bit. Is there any more meat to that content?
Oh yeah, there's actually a lot more. So the one thing I wanted to kind of highlight is you may have heard Microsoft use this terminology in the past. They've referred to Windows 10s as a mode of Windows 10 Pro,
Yes.
right? And you can kind of argue the semantics of that. I think there's a good case for that being the case. Um, it is essentially a Windows 10 Pro, but with some features shut off or some
Hmm.
capabilities turned off or whatever. So okay, it's a mode. In the latest Insider Preview, they've changed the name of the operating system. It actually is now called Windows 10 Pro in S mode. And that name appears on the desktop. It appears in the About Windows dialog. It appears in
Mm.
system settings. Like that's the name now. And that
Yeah.
was not the name before. So someone listening to this will say, yeah, Paul, that happened 6 months ago. I mean, I'm sure it was in some previous Windows Insider build. I haven't been running the preview on S before, but I actually think that the switchover might have been a little sooner. Remember, one of the confusions was someone had written in about they had upgraded S on the preview, and it was called Windows 10 Pro. And then you asked Microsoft, and they said, "Don't worry about it. It's actually still Windows 10s, and even no matter what it says." And I think that was the time they were making that switch.
Mm.
So I don't know if this name is official, but I was just before we started the podcast was watching a Microsoft Channel 9 video about always connected PCs with Kevin Gallo and Seth Juarez, which is, by the way, probably worth watching. And they refer to this thing. Someone had asked a question about Windows 10s, and the way the person from Microsoft answered the question was to refer to it as Windows 10 Pro in S mode. So
Mm.
that's one of the things that's in the article, but I think they're changing the name
Yeah.
or the brand or whatever you want to say.
Which I think makes sense. I think that's a better route. Windows 10s is
Yeah,
you
it
could
makes it
you're
seem
always gonna have
less.
that layer of confusion,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
mm,
yep.
it'll
Oh,
be
we're going to have multiple layers of confusion. Why don't you tack on the ability to run this system on top of ARM chips now? And is
yeah,
this a different version of Windows? Like, or are there different capabilities and whatever? And yeah, there
right.
kind of are, right? I mean, the ARM chipset, the Qualcomm stuff in the current version cannot run x64 apps. Intel x64
Mm.
apps, only x86. Um, so yeah, there's all kinds of differences. Like it's actually kind of
Yep.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, I wonder when they're gonna officially make this announcement. Build seems like that would be a long way away
For the announcement for what? For
to like say, "Hey, we're nuking Windows 10s."
well, I don't think they're nuking it. Well, I should say I also have a theory around this. Like this thing continues forward. I mean, I think they're going to try. I will say attached to this thought is the recent education announcements that Microsoft made. They refer to
Mhm.
these things called Windows 10 education PCs. And I talked to Jay Paulus at Microsoft about this stuff. And one of the questions, as I take notes, I kind of highlight a couple of things he says so I can go back and ask about it. And I said, hey, you had kind of an interesting way of referring to this version of Windows 10. Are these things not Windows 10s? And actually, as it turns out, they're not. Any of those education PCs, the school can decide which version of Windows to get. They don't have to get Windows 10s. And then if they want to get Pro like later, just upgrade for free, whatever. They literally get to choose at buy time.
Mm.
And the always connected PCs, same thing. They asked the question on that video, someone in the audience did, about whether they had to be Windows 10s, and they said no. It's up to the OEMs. Obviously, they get charged less for Windows 10s. They can, depending on where they're trying to sell this thing, their consumers, their enterprise customers, et cetera. Some people may not want it. You'll know, and people listening to this will probably remember that last summer when they announced this, there was some kind of time frame on this free upgrade. Like if you
Yep.
buy a Surface laptop or whatever, the free upgrade was good through, I think it was January, and then they extended it to March. And my theory is that with this name change, they're going to do what I thought they would always do and what they should do, which is like, look, you can go to Windows 10 Pro anytime. What you're buying is Windows 10 Pro. It's configured in S mode, right? And Microsoft has this list of reasons why they think it's better. Some of them I
Mhm.
think are kind of not true, but whatever. You as the owner of something that runs Windows 10 Pro in S mode can disable S mode at any time and switch to full Windows 10 Pro. That's a theory, but I think that's the way it's going to be going forward.
Which,
It's
yeah,
going to be a choice.
which is what it should always have been.
Yeah, I
I
think so.
think that's actually the right approach, and it reduces some of the confusion, makes life a little bit easier, and
Hmm.
cleans up the SKU list a little bit as well.
I will
So,
say I'm getting pretty close to kind of liking it. I mean, I've always felt, I know people think I'm super critical of this thing, but I just try to be honest about it. This thing is deeply flawed, and the
mhm.
one thing that's remaining is this kind of Google/Chrome problem, right? Which Microsoft could solve right now. But other than that, and the performance issues in Microsoft Edge, which I don't like. There is pretty much a selection of apps that I could use. I mean, I'd have to use Edge. I got to deal with that. If I don't mind using the Microsoft Mail and calendar apps for that kind of stuff, which I kind of do, but I could use them. Like it's doable. Like,
Or you could use Newton.
you know, yeah,
You'd have to pay,
I
but
don't know.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there were apps for everything. I mean, Microsoft Office this week shipped in some kind of a final non-preview form, I guess, for everybody. That was part of the reason I had problems earlier in the week, I think, installing those apps, and they work fine now. Um, it's it. I'm weird in that I don't typically write in Microsoft Word, but most people obviously would have no problem with that. It works great.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It's weird. Like it's kind of getting there. It's
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's getting there.
they're getting there. It's good. Speaking of getting there, let's see. I believe it's the end of next month. Samsung has teased
Mhm.
that the Samsung Galaxy S9, no idea where they got their random naming convention from, is coming. And they're talking about reimagining the camera. So
Well,
camera improvements, I guess, are on the horizon for that
sure.
phone. I mean, I don't know what else they would really be improving at this point, but
Yeah, I
there you
mean,
go.
has there been a camera since the iPhone 5 that hasn't had a reimagined camera? I mean, I think we're
Right.
hopefully the way they're going to reimagine it is to detach it from the fingerprint reader so people don't keep touching it, by mistake. But that would be an interesting reimagining.
The
Um,
photos are so
yeah, I
much
mean, they
better.
already
I
have
don't know
dual
why.
cameras. Yeah, I don't know why. Right? Are you using a Vaseline filter? What's going on with your photos?
It's the latest from Instagram. It's called Vaseline. Actually, it's just called petroleum jelly because I don't want to get sued. But
Right.
one other thing to note here, if you are in the mood to buy Sonos, they are actually cutting the price. At least they claim temporarily that if you want to buy two Sonos ones, which are kind of the entry level speakers, but they come with the Echo integration. Well,
Yep.
they knocked the price down to a very interesting $349 for two of them. I wonder where they got that price idea from.
Yeah. Not only is the price of those two speakers the same as one Apple HomePod, but of course, what they're stressing is the fact that, um, of course, Sonos supports multi-room audio and stereo
Mhm.
pairing, which is the
Yep.
features that Apple had to kill in the HomePod to get it to ship at this late date. Yeah, I've kind of gone in my own direction with this kind of stuff with Chromecast and everything because I feel it's more cost effective. But if you're going to compare like two Sonos ones to, I mean, I've not heard an Apple AirPod, but just from a pure compatibility standpoint,
Mhm.
obviously the Sonos is the better choice. Even if you're an Apple guy, the Sonos is the better choice. What was the what was the original price of a Sonos One single speaker? Was it 199 or was it more than that?
Yeah, so they effectively knocked off $50 for buying two, or
Yeah.
$25 each if you buy them.
Okay. So they might have had prices like this over the holidays. They probably had like a Black
Yeah,
Friday deal, although maybe not on the very newest speaker because this is the new one with the Echo integration, like you
correct.
said. Like, um, anyway, that's a good price for that kind of thing. Those are great speakers.
Yeah, it actually is. My brother messaged me, and that's actually how I found it. He's like, "Is this a good deal to get two of these?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, it is. They sound pretty dang good." And the fact that
Yeah.
you can get multi-room audio for the exact same price, and you're not tied into the Apple ecosystem, I think that's how Sonos. Everyone's like, "How are they going to keep living?" I think their niche going forward is that they're not tied to any platform. You can jump from Apple to Android or
Yeah.
whatever, and your speakers
But I
don't
wish
get
they were
butchered.
I wish they were compatible with every platform. See, that would make it more interesting to me. If those speakers supported Chromecast and AirPlay as
Yeah,
well as their own thing, I would never go anywhere else. That would do it for me. I love the quality of the speakers. I'm willing to pay the premium, but it's the compatibility thing that kills me, and
yeah,
it's
they're
just
getting there.
it's
I
just
believe they
irritating.
announced AirPlay 2, they will support it, but Sonos, their one Achilles heel is that they are incredibly slow at developing and
Yep.
building out new
Yes, they
things.
are.
And so there's that. I don't know why. I thought I heard or read that they are eventually going to support Google Assistant, which at that point you would think that they would have to support Chromecast audio. And
Yes. So I mean, it's okay. It's not like
yeah,
it's a cliff, and I bought
right.
a couple of pairs of cheap speakers. It's if I later want to buy Sonos, it's not, it's fine. I can wait. But I do have
Mhm.
the previous gen Sonos ones. We actually still have three of them. Um, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
If you're looking for something with good sound quality, whatever, this is a good deal.
it is. You got anything else for today, Paul?
I just have a question, Brad, about that J.R.R. Tolkien looking thing you got behind you. What's the deal there?
Yeah. Yeah. So this actually wasn't the show notes. This is a completely organic question.
Hmm.
So I finally posted up the review, not the review, but like kind of the building of the PC
The
that
dragon.
I flattened multiple times and have fought with, but I'm
Yep.
very happy with it. I called it building a high end PC, chasing the performance dragon. So in the spirit,
I see. Also, on a
yeah,
semi-related note, Ursula Le Guin, the author of the Earthsea series of fantasy novels, died this week. I was hoping it was an homage to that, but okay, that's fine.
I was getting there. I was getting
Oh,
there. I was gonna say Miracast almost worked the entire episode, but it just
yeah,
chopped out there for a
almost
minute.
work. Remember my phrase about almost works. Almost works means doesn't work.
Eee. Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah,
I was gonna bet that the dealership was gonna call during this podcast and tell me my car was ready, but no
no dice.
such
Well, you still
luck.
have a few seconds left. You never know.
All right. Well, tomorrow, let's see, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday, which means we do the live show at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that at thurrott.com/live. And today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD to learn more about their product and how you can back up and basically just play with your backups and put them wherever you want. That does it for today, folks. We'll catch you right back here tomorrow.